This is Divine Evolution, and I'm Chris O'Connor. Welcome to Season 2, Episode 2 of the Divine Evolution podcast. In this episode, I would like to talk about one of the lessons I've been learning recently myself in sharing information and being of assistance and service to others in helping them with information gathering and understanding past lives and spiritual guidance and advice. What I've learned of the last several months is the difference between being available to share and give information and abridging the free will of an individual that has a desire to know or possibly desires to not know. Throughout the last several years of my life, I've had people in my life that simply didn't want to know anything beyond what they understood at that time. And that wasn't a concept that I could absorb and conceive of, because my mind was always wanting to gather information about the past, about the present, and about the possible futures that we face. And I always wanted to know more, because for me, more information gave me an opportunity to balance information out, have a greater understanding of a multitude of subjects, and it just enriched my life knowing more things. But what I've learned lately is that not everyone has that thought pattern. Not everyone understands or cares to understand about a great many things. I've learned that it can be hurtful for me to give information to someone, say about a past life, and they not really want to know that information, and they may not know they didn't want to know it until after they knew it, which sounds very much like an impossible situation, but it really isn't, because the responsibility would lie with me and my offering of information, because there are times when an offering of information is not a gift to someone, it is a detriment. And that all lies within one of the very first distortions that the universe was ever built upon, is the opportunity and the divine right of free will. And we cannot abridge that free will of others. And that becomes more and more of a delicate situation as you begin to understand truly what free will is, and truly what abridging the free will of others is as well. So that's what my lesson has been. It's not easy for me. It hasn't been easy at all in certain ways, because part of it is egoic, where I'm like, well, how can you question what's coming through, sort of thing. And it's not necessarily what they're questioning in content, but it would be more of if I offered information to someone whose native being didn't want to know who they had been in the past, or didn't want to know who the native being they truly are and what race they're from and such as that. And when I speak of this information, I mean outside of this third density, third dimensional world. In the astral realm, who they truly are. Many people apparently don't really want to know that. That's been a lesson that I've begun to learn, to allow the divine right of the individual to dictate the information that they choose to have. And I cannot go beyond that. And that can be really delicate, of course. So most of the time, throughout the vastness of my experience in this, I have not read someone's information or looked into their energy field or their past or their present or their future without their permission. So that I've always kind of done anyway. But whenever I was given a doorway to speak to them, or they ask a question, it was as if I would open a floodgate and all of this information would come through. And I was tapping into information at times that wasn't healthy for them to hear. I've recently had a conversation with a dear friend that she had asked a question, and that ended up, me spending 5 minutes speaking of something. And although I felt it was okay to share this information with her beyond the scope of the question, it turns out that it was not right for her. and it became hurtful. And she had a number of days of trying to process that, because she's a fairly high vibrational individual and has settings within her coming to earth and her soul purpose and her soul contract, in that she needed to learn natively who she was, who she had been, and who she is, and some of the experiences that she had. And I abridged that by sharing information beyond the scope of a question. So this has been a really big lesson for me. As I said, it's not been easy, but I've truly appreciated it, because we come here as individuals, as souls, for experience, for specific experience, but also in a broad experiential way as well. For example, I came here for specific lessons. One lesson was the lesson of love and of being personally accepted, and my expression of love to others and others' expression of love to me. So I set up a set of circumstances in my life prior to coming where I would feel unloved. At times I would also be unloved, so that I would know how that felt. But I would also know how to relate to others that also felt unloved. So that was one of my main purposes for coming, for me to learn that specific lesson of love. In addition to my greater mission as well, which is to, as an individual, help humanity move on to a greater new world situation, which there are a great many million of us working on this same scenario. So there's a greater purpose, but also a number of smaller lessons within the greater soul contract purpose of our being here. And that can be a positive and a negative as well, meaning that a positive individual can come here to assist humanity, to assist the planet itself in its evolutionary process, to share our vibration, to simply exist and help raise the vibration of the planet and of humanity. So there's that. But then there's also individuals that come that are negative entities. They are incarnate, they're born, and they set up a set of circumstances that causes them to become more negatively polarized. For example, an individual may come here as a negative entity, not to experience love, but to experience the lack of love, much as I felt the lack of love. But I felt it in a way, I set the lesson in a way that I could be of assistance to others who felt that way as well. And here's a critical point in that. A negative entity can come here and set the same exact lesson, but specifically to become bitter and angry and become more negatively polarized, so that they can be harvested into a fourth density and to move on a negative sense. So they would skip the whole lesson of love, and they would use that lesson of the lack of love to in fact polarize negatively because they're angry or bitter, unhappy. So it's the individual that takes the lesson. Another critical point is that I recently had a conversation with someone who had reached out and were speaking of being attacked by a lot of negative entities in their life, and seeing entities and having anger toward them, fighting them off. I saw the situation as someone reaching out to me in a way that I could be of assistance and help them understand that the best way to fight off negativity is through the expression of love. Love is the most powerful and the most efficient protection possible. So I was saying, well, send them love. Don't fight them, send them love. Well, they came back with, don't ever tell me to use love. That this individual had lived a life of betrayal and of deceit and of true hatred for other humans and of the whole planet. And I instantly knew when they came back and told me this, I had abridged his free will. And in abridging this person's free will, they became aware of something possibly that they didn't want to become aware of. So that was my mistake, because I went beyond the scope. I even said I don't normally give additional information without being asked, but ... and then I did it. So I screwed that up. But I learned a huge lesson in that, because I was immediately reminded of not everyone is here to learn the lessons of love and to polarize positively. Some people are specifically here to skip the lessons of love and to skip love altogether, to polarize more negatively. And the fact is, we can't judge that. That's not our place to determine what is good or bad or acceptable or should be rejected, because that individual polarizing negatively is equal to you and I. And they're equal to you and I because they're as much a part of God, part of the source, as part of the Creator as we are. They are just as valued by source, by God, that we are, because that experience is still had. The understanding and knowledge is still had. And that is the point of lesson. And that is the point of souls coming into a third density and to earth and to learning lessons, whether they're polarizing negatively or positively. When we begin to make a judgment upon what an individual has chosen to do, no matter what that choice is, that is wrong on our part. That is why we can never judge. I mean, it's not our place to determine why they're here. It's not our place to determine what is good or bad about them. So no matter what choices they make in life, no matter what choices people make, whether we agree with them or not, whether it's politics, whether it's religion, whether it's just an opinion, it's theirs. It's their point of view. It is their divine right to choose. It is their divine right to express their free will. And we cannot abridge that. And it's a big lesson I've been learning, and I simply wanted to share it with you all. And I know this is a short episode, and that's probably a good thing because the last episode was quite long. But I wanted to get this episode out, and I wanted to tell everyone how much I loved you, how much I appreciate everyone. You know, I have the new Dean's device that I've been developing over the last several months and sending out all over the world. The response has been amazing, and I've been so grateful for it. And I've been able to share some healing and love with people all over the globe, and I'm just so grateful. And I just wanted to say, if any of the listeners here have purchased a device, thank you. The reviews are coming back, and they're really amazing, and I'm really happy that they're out in the world working, helping to relieve pain and help and heal people. So I just wanted to make that mention as well, because a lot of people are crossovers between listeners and customers, and I just wanted to express my gratitude and then tell all of you how much I love you, and I'm grateful for listening, and I will speak to you again real soon.